May I remind you that trading is risky and not suitable for everyone. Your past performance, good or bad, is not necessarily indicative of future results. Please stay small, stay humble, focus on the long term, and never risk money you can't afford to lose. Welcome to QuantBox Daily. Today's Monday, April 3rd. QuantBox is your global macroeconomic Quant-in-a-Box, an amazing fundamental tool that gives you all the details you need to have a fundamental bias that's not just based on a coin flip, but based on actual data coming from several locations, which otherwise would be very difficult and time-consuming to manage and collate. It pulls all this information for you on the fly, in the background, taking care of everything, giving you a total score for your fundamental bias, which you can then marry with technical analysis and exercise in the markets to give you an edge, to help you become a more consistent and controlled trader. A 1 week trial is just $7.90. Okay, I'll give you an example of what we did last week. Last week, we were looking at the score chart summary and looking at all the pairs in terms of what was happening with COT data. You can see that there's still a few blanks that need to be filled in. We're still waiting for that information. This information came out last Friday, but you can see there's still a lot of currency pairs where institutional traders are not currently trading. Okay. However, there was one we were looking at. That was pound dollar. Okay. Last week, pound dollar, we had a trade signal. I spoke to you on Friday about this. I said to you, pay very careful attention to price coming up to this level. And then on Friday, I said to you, if price stays up here, what you're looking for is you're looking for price to break support to become resistance, M15. I drew this line for you, and there you are. Now you can see here, there were several times that price came back and pulled back to this resistance. Okay, you can have a look here and see the final one is when it actually dropped. Looking at your M5, you can see here that you had price coming back up, coming back up, coming back up. Now, if you decided to see price closing that resistance and just sell over here once the 21 across the 55, totally fine. Looking at your M15 level over there, you can see that's where that happened over here. Okay. Price came down, didn't make a lower high. Price came down, didn't make a lower high. Price came down, lower low, lower high. And so this over here is where you would have got it. And you can see if we look at the M5 chart in that scenario, that's exactly where you would have got in. Okay. So hopefully you got that trade. Now, of course, if you're in that trade right now, that's fantastic. You can see price currently coming down all the way. Now, one thing you're going to worry about or be focused on is where price closes today. But right now, you're fine. That trade runs. Okay. Now you're in a situation where you get into a trade over here. Okay. And you're going to continue letting that trade run until such time as the fundamental bias is bullish or the technical bias is bullish. At present, you don't have a lower high on the H4. However, price closing top of the range should be enough for you. Okay. If you didn't get in because you're looking for a lower high on the H4, that's fine. You could totally be waiting for price to close at resistance. You've got several levels. You've got this level over here. You got this level over here. Okay. And you got a few levels that you also wait for price to come all the way back up a double top. Okay. The fact is that on Friday, when you took the trade, your plan was very simply top of the range, give me a lower, low, lower, high M15. Okay. Cool. So that was the one trade on Friday we were looking at. Nothing else really made sense technically. In terms of the fundamental bias on QuantBox, you can see here, score chart summary, we've got quite a few buyers that have now entered the arena. But looking at the right-hand side COT data, only a few of them really being followed by institutional traders. Again, something I'm very, very focused on because of volatility right now in the market and what's going on in the world. I think a lot of traders are keeping their powder dry. But there are definitely opportunities out there. So let's take a look at them. So here you can see Euro Kiwi. Now you've got score over here, which is made up of all of this data right-hand side. You can see we do have Euro Kiwi pretty much mostly green. We do have some data that's currently coming through bearish, which, if I look at pound dollar, you see pound dollar like pretty much red across the board. I like that. I don't want opposing forces in my currency pair. And right now with EuroQ, you do have opposing forces. However, COT data is still bullish. And you can see here, we've got some green data, GDP growth and inflation, but unemployment and interest rate difference is currently red. So in that situation, one might wait to see if this data changed anything. But what I'm going to do is let's take a look at Euro Kiwi on a chart. It's currently coming through a strong buy. And let's see how Euro Kiwi is looking at the moment. There's Euro Kiwi. All right, groovy. So you can see currently sideways on the H4 time frame, not very nice. And then over here on the daily time frame, still currently ranging. All right. So what I can do is I can just lock this into a range and wait for price to break out of that range. Okay. In terms of buying, I'm not a massive fan of buying up here. It's way too high. But if you in a trade from down here or down here, then that's telling you that you can still let you win a run. Okay. Sometimes you got to realize that the signal isn't necessarily a case of get into the trade today, but rather don't get out of the trade today. And right now in Euro Kiwi, if you currently are long Euro Kiwi, there's no reason to get out because you've got no indication of bearishness at present. No lower low, lower high on any of these time frames. You can see they're currently H4 still ranging. Okay. And so you have no reason to close that trade. Moving on, we got Swiss franc, Japanese yen. I'm not going to touch that because the COT data. I want to see institutional traders going in the direction of the overall bias. Euro yen though coming through bullish. We got bullishness on COT. Now remember, Euro yen last week had nothing was coming through on COT data. So that's one of the trades we were looking for. I said to you last week, pay attention to change. You're looking for change on COT data to start trading in the direction of the institutional traders. And you can see now Euro yen coming up with a buy, COT data coming with a 2, although we have got some red data in the mix. Again, I prefer everything to be green or everything to be red. Let's take a look at Euro yen right now. Okay. I don't like where price is from a positional perspective. We've got new pivot points, by the way, today being the first trading day of the month. And you can see there, I'm not a massive fan of what's going on in the H4 timeframe. I don't feel like that's a great place to be buying, to be honest. You might think trend, I'm looking at this and saying definitely still sideways. You can see there, top of the range. I'm not a massive fan of trading that. Also, from a positional perspective, it just does not say buy right now. However, if you bought earlier, then you're still letting this trade run. Okay. Fantastic. Let's look at what else we got. We got gold over here. Okay, last week gold was sitting at profit-taking zones. Let's take a look at gold. Also for a buy, not a massive fan for a buy high levels. You can see there, I'm definitely not buying that at all. Okay, so waiting for that to turn bearish. On fundamentals, USDs are coming through with a 4 and a 2 on COT data. I've got a little bit of red. Okay. In other words, if I buy USDs, I'm not going to make money in that direction. You can see there's giving me red on the I'll be better off selling. Okay, USDs are. So let's look at the USDs are. Just in terms of interest rate differential, but here we are. So I mean that's an easy thing to see as well. You can even just look at this over here. It depends on your broker as well in terms of what swap your broker pays. You can have a look over here under specification. You can see there. Let's have a look and see. See, swap type long, you're not making money. Swap type short, you're making money. Okay, it's very simple. So that stands out. So that's the one thing that's against buying USDs. But besides that, everything else pretty okay. Of course, your trend reading coming at the -2. Let's take a look at that. So on your daily, you can see I don't really have much of a trend. Now I wouldn't be buying this last month, currently up here, but this month you've come down to M2. I don't like the shape of this, the form of this, but nonetheless, let's take a look. So you can see here, you're currently coming off a weekly M2, a monthly M2, all the way down here. I'd like to see an indication that price is now bullish. So I'd like to see price making higher lows. You can see an M15, nothing like that at the moment. This is quite messy, to be honest. But yeah, as I said, you are in position there. When things are sideways, pivot points, are they that reliable? Not really, because the pivot points are measured on past volatility, and if past volatility is very shallow, then that means that past volatility is represented by data dependency, or the market's waiting for something else, and that's not a true reflection of volatility. And so therefore, when pivot points are calculated, They're not calculated based on actual volatility in terms of what it should be, but based on indecision and data dependency. So for that reason, I wouldn't expect WM2 to get to WM4. However, if you are looking at this, then what you're paying attention to is you want to see price come back down for a higher low, okay? And you're looking for price to sort of close its support over here, or price to come back down and make a strange higher low. It doesn't have to close any support. Once you see price come down, you see a candle close, see a red candle close, and that red candle doesn't make a lower low, jump onto a low time frame, M15, and then you're looking for that higher low in M15, okay? And you could then potentially take a trade up to the top of the range. You can see that, one would be expecting price to pull back to the bottom of the range and test resistance. I don't think that's going to happen because it never happened over here. You can see here as price broke out on Friday, we never got that pullback, okay? Instead, price came all the way down and hit into support left-hand side over here. So if you're looking for buys, then just, wait for that higher low over here and then verify everything on lower time frames. Cool. So there's one to pay attention to. Pound yen coming through still with zero on COT data, bullish across the board for everything else except for inflation and unemployment. Again, opposing forces here fundamentally. I'm leaving that alone, not because of the opposing forces, but because of the fact that there's no institutional traders behind this pair. Right, I want to trade with the big boys, and they're not on this pair currently. So let's leave that alone. Euro Swissy coming through the buy. We've got 2 on COT data, a bit of bearish data mixing with the fundamental data over here. Some bullish, some bearish. In fact, if we look at fundamental data, we don't have anything bullish on fundamentals. We've got 0 on GDP growth. Inflation is negative, and unemployment's negative. The only thing that's in our favor is if we buy this, we make swap. Okay, depending on your broker. And that we've got retail sentiment over here and seasonality. So seasonality in our favor, but fundamentals not in our favor. Okay, data. So I feel like there's opposing forces here. But most importantly, I've got 0 on COT data. I'm not interested in trading a pair where I don't have institutional traders behind me. Okay, because they're the ones who are going to move the market, not me. Not you, right? The big guys. Euro Swissy coming through with a 2 on COT data. We've got, again, some bearish at fundamental data. Nothing really saying bullish on fundamentals. Let's take a look at Euro Swissy quickly. And let's see if it reflects in the price action the fact that we've got nothing really saying bullish. You can see there, look at that sideways market. I'm not a fan, Not a fan at all. So I'm going to leave that alone. So USDZR seems to be the only one right now that I'm really paying attention to. And then pound Swissy, no COT data, leaving that alone instantly, okay? Lots of neutrals down here, okay? But as I said to you on Friday, you're paying attention to the neutrals moving into the buy or sell. Some neutrals moved into buy or sell, but we're still missing some key components. Looking at the sells, we got Euro Pound coming through the 2, and we got some bearish data across the board. The only thing that's really standing out bullishly on Euros Pound, let's go take a look at Euro Pound. So Euro Pound over here. So inflation is bullish. Everything else is bearish. And what do we got? COT data. So traders are bullish on Euro Pound. See, that's the thing. If the bias is bearish, but COT data is bullish, I'm going to leave that alone, right? Absolutely. Definitely. Why would I want to sell this when it's going in the opposite direction of the institutional traders? That makes no sense. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to pay attention to this. I'm going to wait now for Friday, or at least pay attention to, like, has anything changed positionally in the market? Because remember, your COT data only comes out on Friday, but that represents positions people have already taken. So you don't want to, it's a lagging indicator. You don't want to wait for it to come up before you decide, okay, things have changed. And you might argue the same thing for the zeros and say, well, therefore, can't I just? And you certainly could. Okay, you certainly could. You can certainly go into these pairs over here and start seeing, do you have anything that speaks to bullishness or bearishness on these pairs? But what's interesting is if you take a look at a pair like pound dollar, where you've got red across the board, you can see how you also have red on the COT data. Okay. So you could wait for traders to get in, and then you could decide to then jump in a direction with them. It's absolutely up to you. Either way is fine. One of them you're basically front running, and the other one you're waiting for confirmation. Okay, but ultimately Euro Pound on a 2. We can take a look at Euro Pound. Institutions are bullish, and you can see they're not a great place to be. Okay. Not a fan of that. All right, cool. So, Kiwi dollar, we got -2. That's cool. So, Kiwi dollar sell. Okay, you came up sort of top of range on Friday. Where are you over here? You're all the way down here right now for London. You can't sell that. Let's leave that alone. Move on.com. Pound dollar. Aussie dollar USD. Let's take a look. Aussie dollar USD. What a mess. Okay, well, it won't be like this forever, but you are currently stuck in a range. Support, resistance, all that jazz. You can leave that alone. What's interesting is that, obviously I do this session at London, but if you're doing this before Asia and before New York, when I'm not doing sessions, then you could be catching things that I'm not catching right now at London, okay? A good example of that would be the pound dollar on Friday, okay? Absolutely 100%. And that was a trade we spoke about last week, lined everything up. In fact, we waited for it for a couple of days. We waited for price to come up to this resistance level for a couple of days, didn't do any buying at all. When price came up here, I said to you, cool, now look for opportunities to sell. Now, the fact is that on pound dollar, everything lined up perfectly. We had COT data. Let's go to pound dollar over here. We had our COT data. We had all our fundamental data. The only thing that wasn't in our favor was trend reading, and that's fine because we said there is no trend. There's a range. Okay. Obviously, trend reading is picking up the convergence divergence between the 5 and the 8. Okay. That angle of separation that indicates momentum in price, right? That's what that chart was picking up. But the fact is, we're not worried about that because we can see clearly a sideways market. So trend reading means nothing to us. Besides that, everything else like red across the board. And yet we find ourselves price coming into resistance, and it set up beautifully for us. Okay, if you're in that trade and price coming back up, personally, I only move my stops to break even once I make a lower high or a higher low, which hasn't happened. So my stop would still be at risk over here. I wouldn't close it because price is putting a pullback. I'd leave it alone. Let price pull back. And if price comes up and knocks me out, so what? That's the cost of doing business. But if price comes up and settles over here and then goes down, at least I'm still in the trade. If price comes up here and goes down, or price goes up here and goes down, I'm still in the trade. Okay. But I would be paying attention to pound dollar. You can also pay attention to USD ZAR today if you want as well, as we said just now. But yeah, okay, fine. So it's kind of the same thing because over here, you're waiting for price to come down and make a higher low if you didn't get into USD ZAR. Okay, this is one of those pairs where if you're looking at your charts and QuantBox, at other sessions, you would have seen USD ZAR and you might have been able to get in at the Asia session. Okay, let's look at M15. Did you get a higher high, higher low? Let's take a look. Let's take a look over here on M5. Yeah, you could have got in Asia, okay, this morning in Asia. You totally could have done that. So you can see how having QuantBox at your disposal is very, very handy, okay, and mixing that with technicals. So pound dollar and USDs are the two pairs you're paying attention to today. Other than that, we'll have to see what changes come through between today and tomorrow, and then continue being patient, disciplined, and remaining liquid. Hope you have an amazing day, friends. See you tomorrow. All the best. Bye-bye.